Welcome to today's video. I'm right now sitting on a train reading, or actually just finished reading Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. And I was thinking about one big idea that he is also really stressing here. The big idea and the fact that in the type of society that we're living right now, and in the way that, let's say, our lifestyles and what we do day to day has developed, the problem, let's say, of living a life without meaning is becoming bigger and bigger. And today I want to just, let's say, share some ideas from the book, some maybe personal reflections. And the first thing really reminded me of Fight Club right away. When I was reading here, Viktor Frankl, at this point a psychologist, psychotherapist who died around 20 years ago, his ideas, he really, like, let's say, put them into words 50, 60, 70 years ago. And I really heard the ideas that he's mentioning in Fight Club. Every guy who watched the movie, it's kind of like at this point like a very big cultural phenomenon. There, Tyler Durden says, we live in a world and in a time right now where there's no great war, where there's no great struggle, and therefore there is no meaning. We don't have to do anything, and we feel empty. And obviously all of us feel that to a certain extent. Like, we just go through a day-to-day life. And also people talk about it, obviously, you know, you just feel like, what am I doing here? Just try to distract yourself a little bit, having some fun, going to the movies. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But how does it come that, let's say, some people, they live one and the same life, but the one person feels empty and feels like everything is meaningless, and the other person has meaning? And one really interesting thought, or let's say way of putting it, that Viktor Frankl was presenting here, he's talking about the existential vacuum. And what he is saying is that the existential vacuum manifests itself mainly in a state of boredom. And that would really make me want to film this video right now, because I like to talk about that. In my eyes, there's no such thing as boredom. There's no such thing as even laziness. Often people are like, I feel so bored, I just feel so lazy. And he is basically saying here that the state of boredom is basically just the lack or the absence of meaning behind your current state right now. Like, let's say if you're really busy, if you're really doing something, like, this is not exactly what he was saying, but this is how I felt about it. You feel meaning behind it. Be it like something very small. Right now we're on a train ride, we're going to a different place. I'm not bored. Like, I'm not bored just because I don't have entertainment here, because I see the future, I see the big idea of where I'm going. And whenever I lose track of that a little bit, maybe for a few days, for a few weeks, maybe I just get a little too comfortable, maybe there's something like tough or something that I want to avoid confronting. Like right now there's a lot of things. Right now we're going to, like, the whole world kind of to a little bit of a hard time. Filming as of right now, April 2020, early April. And then I do feel the boredom sneaking in. I do maybe feel the laziness sneaking in a way of don't want to confront this, let's say, certain meaningless and not having a picture of the future that I'm currently having. And on the other side, he's talking about the existential vacuum also, that we are having a certain, let's say, how is he calling that? We experience a certain pressure. Existential pressure, he's calling that. He's talking about the fact that one of our main things that we have to do, there it is. To be sure, man's search for meaning may arouse inner tension rather than inner equilibrium. I knew I would freak out on this word. Equilibrium. However, precisely such tension is an indispensable prerequisite of mental health. So he's talking about this very interesting idea that I really like, that we all feel this tension of, let's say, finding meaning to what we do, finding meaning in our life. And we also, let's say, associate this tension like, oh no, this tension, it doesn't feel good, we want to get rid of it. But he's talking about the fact that it is a prerequisite to mental health. And prerequisite is actually, obviously, English is not my native tongue, so when I learned this word I really liked it in a way of, it is the stepping stone, it is the thing that comes before mental health, this inner tension that we all experience, then leads us to, let's say, pursuing on the one side the attitude on how we see the things. Right now there's another train passing by, and on the other side, actively actually pursuing it and not getting stuck in this boredom that he is describing before. So I really like that he is putting a high emphasis on the fact that the fact of boredom, this is what I didn't address before, what I meant, maybe on the one side you're actively pursuing something, like as I said, right now, I see the next few days, the next few weeks that I want to do, and I felt myself in the past few weeks falling a little bit into boredom, falling a little bit into laziness, because I didn't see the bigger picture. But on the other side, also, if you're not doing anything at all, if you're not going anywhere, if you're just sitting there, maybe you're, let's say, relaxing, recovering. All right, now I'm gonna, let's say, lower my voice a little bit. Just yelling here in this cabin. We're doing a little stop. Maybe we can show them real quick what is going on outside. Really just super rural. And actually reading this book right now gave me a little bit the shivers. Highly recommend it. I already did a little book review on it. And to get back to it, even if we just sit still and don't do anything, there's no boredom, because the standing still has a function. And obviously that is not exactly what he's saying, but my reflection on that was that we live right now in a society where, let's say, productivity and outer achievement is so high, it's put on such a high pedestal, that whenever we sit still, we feel kind of let's say, wrong, unproductive. Right now societal conditioning is in that way. But if you have meaning, then you're standing still and sometimes not doing anything and just recovering has a vital meaning, and you don't experience boredom. And I gotta say, when I'm, let's say, I like to call it on top of my game, and for me that is a feeling. That is a feeling of, let's say, I see the bigger picture, not perfectly, not every single step, not every week, but kind of like a certain bigger picture, things slowly falling into place. Never experience boredom. Never even really experience laziness. Maybe I just don't call it as such. And another idea that he shares that I thought was very interesting is the fact that, let's say, meaning can be found, of course, on the one side on outer achievements, if you will, or just anything outside of you. But what he put in this book very interestingly, and I think that is why these ideas are right now more relevant than ever. We live right now in a world that is slowly, especially in the Western world, as far as I can see, slowly, let's say, consumerism and materialism is starting to be questioned a little bit. People are starting to slowly wake up a little bit. But what I don't see being questioned at all, I'm not saying it's wrong. That's a topic for a different video. But what I don't see being questioned at all is the fact that society is based on productivity. You need to add your part to society to have a meaning. And while that gives meaning to a lot of people, just doing something outside of you, he's talking about the fact that, let's say, meaning and achievement can be inside of you through, let's say, if you go through a hard time and you carry yourself in a way of this, so you, right, dogs are going crazy here. You carry yourself in a way where you hold your head high. He was talking about the fact, let me just actually check out what's going on outside. Alright, somebody's taking out their dogs. He was referencing a study, or let's say a public opinion where...
25 минут осталось уже,
да? Okay.
2 рубля 50 центов.
Давайте. Alright, gonna pay right now for the coffee out here. Только 20. Спасибо. Alright, we're gonna get changed for the coffee we had here on the train, 20 minutes left. Basically, to wrap up, the last idea that I really thought was really interesting is basically that, by the way of, let's say, if you're in a situation where suffering is inevitable, obviously Viktor Frankl is talking about being in a concentration camp, that's a very harsh example. Sometimes just how you carry yourself through tough times, if suffering is unavoidable, how you can keep your head up high, how you can find meaning, how even sometimes just, let's say, loving someone and really taking maybe also responsibility on for other people is just things inside of you that can be, let's say, a personal achievement in which we can find meaning as well. It's not just about becoming successful, contributing materially to society, or just helping out actively what you actively do, but it also can be how you carry yourself through hard times. And he was saying the big problem that he sees is that right now everyone has to be happy. And if somebody is unhappy and they have to go through suffering, not only Let's see how much. That's it. I'm like, you know, all tough, like going crazy. She's like, oh yeah, thank you for the change. So to really wrap it up, one of the most powerful sentences in this book right now. In these days, society tells us we have to be happy. But what for whatever reason, maybe it's just a stage in our life, maybe, unfortunately, and possibly maybe a constant state, we're not able to be happy. But we also have to live with the shame of ourselves that we have for being unhappy. But what if we can actually carry ourselves through that time with our head up high, and that can be, let's say, our proudest achievement. And here, to go back to the public poll that was taking, we don't admire most just politicians, sportsmen, businessmen, high achievers, but we admire as much, if not even more, people who went through very hard times and came out at the end of it, sometimes maybe even not, but how they carried themselves going through that. So just a few ideas, very dense, very deep book. Towards the end, some practical, let's say, also approaches to logotherapy, let's say the therapy of finding meaning by Viktor Frankl. So with that, thank you very much for watching today's video. And as always, we're gonna see each other very soon.